Welcome back, viewers. I hope you're enjoying the day 5 of closing day of Global Digital Summit 2021. Moving on to our next flagship panel discussion, which is on frameworks of IT and export, honored by our esteemed guests and moderated by Mr. Osman Nasir, Managing Director of Pakistan Software Export Board. Over to you, Mr. Osman.
Thank you very much. I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And I believe today will be a very vibrant session with absolute wonderful audience here. The panel is brilliant. I believe Asif is joining us. I believe Imran Khan is joining us, and my partner in crime, Miss Hira, is joining us as well, and I believe Mr. Omair Ahmed from Salsoft will be here as well. So this is what we are trying to do here today. We are trying to see the potential of exports for Pakistani IT companies internationally, and we are trying to find out what are the impediments, what are our experiences thus far, and how we can make them, how we can make the situation better in our favor. So starting with Hira, and we start working we start working with the panel on. First, we go ahead and we talk about their experiences in international business. We'll talk about their relationships with their customers and what they have seen and heard over the past few years, which propels them into believing that they can do better. So I'll start with Hira Zainab, Secretary General at Pasha, and just to have a lay of the land and see what are the opportunities, what is the global potential, and what's our experiences have been thus far. Over to you, Hira.
Thank you, Osman, for starting off the session. Me speaking on behalf of the entire IT industry in Pakistan, Pakistan as Secretary General for Pasha, Pakistan Software Houses Association, we are representing the IT and ITES industry in Pakistan. And we have very closely seen how the growth has been over the past couple of years. We have seen the record-breaking growth in exports, and we see it as just a starting point, and we are at the cusp of the potential that can be unleashed by the industry. Over the next few years, as we are working with the government on the initiatives that can really harness the potential, we see that it can go up to $10 billion, just with the right amount of energies. But we feel that's just that's just something that will that is bound to happen given the potential. But if we address the bottlenecks, and if we all work together, we can really make Pakistan's IT industry as the leading industry in the world.
So thank you, Hira. Now, just a bit of information from the point of view that you've been Secretary General of Pasha, and you've been interacting with international customers and with partners. What do you see their expectations of Pakistan, and how do you see their perceptions changing, and what needs to be done to make it better and faster?
So I think that's a very good question, and to answer it, we have to take a step back and see how the IT industry is different from our traditional industries. One is that when you talk about knowledge economy, it's a mindset, and for us, the regulations, the country perception, the access to market matters way more than the infrastructure and subsidies and what the general industry's requirements are. And we see that in our conversations with the international partners as well, that with the IT industry, They see the potential of Pakistan as the outsourcing destination, but also they have uncertainties in terms of the regulations, in terms of the lack of continuity of the policy, and the country perception in general in terms of political changes. I think we have been working with Pakistan Software Export Board and Ministry of IT very closely over the past, some time, because we see clearly as the ease of doing business in Pakistan is something where we all the government bodies have to work together to make the regulations more friendly for the IT industry, and also that we have to address the cost of doing business if we want to bring new players to Pakistan.
Thank you. I'll move over to Omair. Omair, you and your team have built up a company, a very reputable company from ground up. And you've stacked up a lot of international customers, both in near markets and far markets. From that point of view, and from the point of view of that, when you started, you had a limited budget of marketing, and you went ahead and still ended up successful. What has been your experience of your international customers, and what do you see your potential and the potential of the overall market, the overall industry, Pakistan IT industry, in terms of IT exports over the next 2 to 3 years?
All right, thank you, Osman. So I've been associated with this industry for last more than a decade, I guess, 12 years. So honestly, I've seen a paradigm shift, and within the last 3 years, this pandemic and everything. While this has shaken us to the core, this has opened a lot of opportunities for particularly this sector of Pakistan, because there's so much demand out there. When we go out there, talk to our clients, there's so much market pull, so much, demand of these services, this sector, all the services that we are offering, this industry is offering, that we're just sitting on the tip of the iceberg right now. Now, when we talk about unlocking the potential, when we go as a Pakistani company, or we go through our channel partners out there, Hira was so right about the uncertainty about the political conditions and the policies, the lack of policy that we have. So that question comes in. And how do you counter that? We counter that with the policies and with the procedures, with the SOPs that we have developed locally within a company, with the process that we have developed, which we have been going through for so many years. So I believe what we can do as maybe all the private sector in consortium with the governing bodies, PASHA, PSEB, we can build the policies on our own maybe. Somebody from us should go and talk to the political, governance, take the charge on our own, because we have been facing all these challenges, we have been facing all these questions. So we would be rightly be answerable to all those questions. We can draft the SOPs, we can draft the policies, and we can put down the pointers, which become the hurdle for us in order to unlock those opportunities. Nevertheless, we are not stopping at, we're not just making excuses that we cannot unlock the potential, we cannot increase the ID exports. In the span of the last 2 years, we have seen as a company that we have doubled our revenues despite the pandemic and the COVID, because of the demand. So just imagine that what we can do if all these hurdles, all these loopholes could be covered. And there are plenty of companies like us who look up to such governing bodies, where they could go, they could consult, they could take the path that these leading companies have taken and unlock the potential of the market. I mean, the ID exports or the digital services, it's such a big horizon that it cannot be covered by me, by you, or by any of us. It has to be done as a collective effort, and it has to be done by all the small groups, the small companies, these startups. We have to take them under one umbrella, and somebody has to take charge of that.
True. So we move to the captain of the industry, Asif B. Asif Bhai, now systems offering a very large array of services and products to a very large number of companies and countries actually. So what's your perception over the next 2 to 3 years, what's your forecast of what sort of services, what sort of products that will be in demand globally? And what are the products and services that Pakistan will be able and Pakistani companies will be able to tap into and should be able to tap into, given that we are facing the challenge that we do not want to end up as a sweatshop of IT. We actually want to aspire to be one of the leaders in at least one or two technology sets. What's your forecast of the technologies that you see are generating more demand over the next 2 to 3 years? Asif, you are on mute at the moment.
Yeah, sorry. Can you guys hear me? Is it better?
Yes, we can now.
So first of all, and thank you, Osman and Kamal, for this. Basically, in my view, IT demand for technology stack, the latest technology, digital, data, and cloud is booming, and a lot of demand has been generated over past few years. And since there is a scarcity of resources globally, it's not like Pakistan, it's globally, then it's a huge potential for Pakistani companies to have those people in these three areas minimum. And of course, there is a cybersecurity, infosec, and other areas. They're also booming from DevOps and other perspective. But if this demand is there, and people are looking at Pakistan to supply there for sure. So I see, and we are aligned with all the principles in Pakistan, like IBM is here, Microsoft is here. We don't have Salesforce, but we can bring Salesforce. But Amazon Cloud is selling, Azure is selling, now Google is selling as well. So if alignment is there, and all these companies, Osman, are investing billions of dollars in their R&D. So if even as a Pakistani company in services world, and as a system integrator or service provider, if you follow their innovation and if you follow their track, there is definitely demand in what they do, right? Because they need implementation partners. When the product gets launched, implementation partners and SIs are in great demand. So I really see a great future and a lot of demand coming to Pakistan, not only just because there is a scarcity of resources. Our price points are very attractive from a cost perspective, quality of people, communication. So a lot of things I would say in our favor, and I think we should take an advantage of this from ecosystem perspective, and everyone should be heavily investing in the markets to generate the demand. And of course, as you just started the conversation, that we need to start building HR, more muscles around the industry where we have those people available readily, as well as we have more inventory available, more supply available, demand will be attracted towards us because there is a scarcity everywhere else.
So true. Now, but I understand, Asif, you're a very practical man, and you don't like to talk about aspirations. You like to do those things and showcase them. But if I do talk about aspiration, if I talk about two emerging technologies that you feel that we can tap into, we can dance around a bit, and we can claim our fair share in the market. What do you think those two emerging technologies can be?
I think as anything that you do with data will be definitely is in high demand. Like whether you say it's advanced analytics, you say big data, whether you say AI, machine learning, whatever, anything related to data that we adopt in our country and build the skill set, it will be forever in demand. And anything related to you do about cloud and modern app dev, platform modernization, and also, like as I said, like in cloud, you just don't do modern app modernization, but of course DevOps and other stuff. They are also in heavy demand because all the digital transformation or business transformation revolves around these two things as well, right? These two things are essential. You can't do your digital and business transformation if you don't deal the data properly. And now if you don't use the cloud appropriately and not modernize your infrastructure and architecture, then you can't do the digital transformation either. So since everybody is going after business/digital transformation, and they need to really disrupt. So since you asked two things, I would say if you can build the skill set around those and supply around those, I think there will be definitely demand. And of course, packaged applications you will do in any case, because any packaged application also, as I said, like will use cloud and data. It won't work without it, right? If you can't deploy ERP in cloud, it won't work, right? So these skill sets, like two things that if we really need to focus, only two, these are the two in my view.
Okay. So when you first spoke about cloud and DevOps, and then you again spoke about cloud, I saw the smirk of Imran's face. And Imran said, thought to himself, we've been telling you guys, we've been telling you over the past 10 years, you've not been listening to us. Even some, people were not, I mean, I personally feel people were not able to see what Danish and crew saw 8-9 years ago, and what they forecasted. And what they invested into, and what they invested their money and time into. We must appreciate Cybernet's vision, RapidCompute's vision, and it's rare that we see such a correct forecast in technology sector on a period of 10 years. So Imran, now there are a lot of lift and shifts going to happen from the on-prem systems to cloud. There's a lot of lift and shifts happening in the database, and I believe that as Asif Bhai correctly pointed out, I see one aspect. One aspect is the on-prem databases moving very quickly to cloud databases. And once you do that, you have huge savings, you have efficiencies. And then what you also can bring into other application, other SaaS application. Your schema is onto the cloud, then you can do BI, you can move on and write smart contracts using the same data. You can go and even invoke a layer of AI once the BI is done. So what's your lay of the land? How do you feel that your movement has arrived? And how do you feel that your company is now aligned to take benefits from that?
Well, thank you, Osman, for that. And thank you, Asif Bhai, for setting up the stage for such a interesting topic. So the time is definitely now, not because, popular thought said that that's because of COVID or other things. वो तो अपनी जगह है, that's true, that the COVID has been a catalyst for digital transformation in likes that we've never seen before, which is a good thing for me and for people like Asif Bhai and other people as well. But as Asif Bhai mentioned, that it's not just about the cloud in itself, but it's also about the services that you can stack onto it to make the digital transformation journey as simple as possible. What we're seeing today in the age of startups, in the age of lean startups, in the age of technology-aware startups, and also in the age of fintechs in Pakistan today, we're seeing people really take advantage of cloud infrastructures to create bootstrapped, fast-moving, agile platforms, right? If you have had the opportunity to look at how fintechs work, for example, it's an entire digital ecosystem in itself. They have payment systems in there, they have switching networks in there, they have AI and ML for credit scoring, they have credit card systems for transaction processing. It's a massive ecosystem all bundled into one platform, right? And in that, a key part of that is building that stack that RapidCompute does on top of basic cloud in order to make that journey easy. So for example, you spoke about databases, right? The time, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but the time for proprietary databases is gone. I don't want to take names of big vendors, but their days are gone because they're too expensive. They're not agile. Startups and emerging companies today cannot wait for long-term release updates. They want databases, they want languages that are agile, robust, that can cater to the needs today, which is why we see a huge shift in UI UX languages being used, huge shift in backend programming and DevOps languages being used. And now we're seeing a huge shift in databases, such as databases like MongoDB, MariaDB, Postgres. MySQL has done amazing development on separate platforms. And you're seeing a shift away from the standard SQL Server, standard Oracle mindset. But not everybody's equipped to do that, right? So in order to really use the talent we have in Pakistan, what we do for local companies, and other companies also do that, or for international, is to help them move to a leaner stack, is to provide that value added service, which Pakistani companies are good at because of our low headcount cost. These things are difficult to do when you're an American or a European company, because per hour headcount is so expensive that you cannot practically be cost effective while providing these services. But in Pakistan, what we see us and other people like us do is help these startups and fintechs and banks and other large organizations, not just small, large, move to a more robust, cost-effective and flexible platform. And that's what's happening. After database ki baat ki, fintechs are moving important databases due to regulatory reasons. But there are a lot of enterprise companies that are moving from on-prem to cloud because they want to be faster. They want to be creative. They want to digitize their workflows. So they want to be faster. And that's just not a problem here. So I've recently been traveling across the region and Europe as well. You would be surprised how much this is a challenge even in established economies. I was in Turkey 2 weeks ago. I had like close to 15 meetings. These guys have the money, the knowledge, but they don't have local implementers who can do this on a turnkey or even on a project basis. And we were surprised how many people these guys were talking to from India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and all other places. So there's a huge potential for companies like ours and Systems Limited and others to take the knowledge that they have, understand how it adds value to that stack, not just in databases, but also in modernization of legacy applications, cloudify them. A lot of the apps are not cloud native, so they run pretty poorly on the cloud. So modernize those apps, make them cloud native. But at the end of it all, to do all of this, what concerns me the most, which I hope you will touch on, is that most of our organizations don't have the human resource capability in Pakistan to fuel that ambition. So the potential is there. I mean, we have a front row seat. We love what's happening right now. Government is on the cloud. I'm running stuff like the Prime Minister's office and tons of other things. So you'd be amazed how many government companies are looking forward to going onto the cloud. I've been digitizing enterprise companies, startups. Majority of the fintechs are on my cloud. But there's still a long way to go to build the narrative. People still don't trust the platform. Unfortunately, foreigners trust Pakistani companies more than Pakistanis trust Pakistani companies, which is something that you must be getting a front row seat of, Osman, at PSEB and my friends at Pasha. So that's also a challenge we need to solve, because that's really demoralizing. That stops us from spending more in capacity building. But the potential is there. We just need to solve a few basic problems, country branding being one, exposure through trade delegations being another, massive emergency call on the lack of human resource, and a massive curriculum change. And we need to really look at this from the bottom up rather than from the top down.
True. So yeah, we are working on it, Imran. Couple of new initiatives. You'll see them very soon, or probably over next week, where we'll be requiring a lot of partnerships and we'll be trying to deliver it. But that will be a massive project, inshallah ta'ala. And now one of the challenges that we have is that we've been growing. The industry has been growing over the past 2 to 3 years, and we are seeing 23% growth. And last year we saw 47% growth. This year we are expecting north of 70% growth, and that's all this growth is great, and also it creates these challenges often, which which are good problems to have. So we are going to be skilling people. We are going to be doing a lot of infrastructure building and all of that. But one of the challenges that I see that we must start working on is the diversification of our markets. For instance, 64% of our market is US, of our export market, and that's somewhere around 1.2 to 1.3 billion dollars. Now, so my focus and my target is that if we grow to $10 billion, we want to grow this $1.2 billion to $4 or $5 billion. But then we want the other $5 billion to come from everywhere else. And I see the near market, the GCCs and the Saudi Arabia's push towards digital governance is going to fuel a lot of projects over the next 2 to 3 years. Next 10 to 15 years rather. What's your take on that?
So, Osman, thank you for bringing it up. I think I have a slightly different opinion on this, that even though that United States still continues to be the leading, country where most of our projects are coming from, but since COVID-19, we have seen a diversification in global markets as well. And we have, our companies have gotten exposed to a lot of different, countries which earlier were not taking projects or taking, having companies from Pakistan. But when during COVID-19, when they were faced with different kind of dilemmas and challenges, and Pakistan, I feel, had an equal ground to play for, and that's where we got to show the potential. Is that enough? I don't think so. I think we still have a long way to go before we explore other markets, before we bring other countries and create more awareness of the industry in those countries. And I think, we have, and I think PSEB has been working very closely with Pasha and with the industry in how can we really tap onto those countries and really take delegations, have events, participate in events over there, so that their exposure of the Pakistani industry gets developed. So I think we have made some progress, but it's just a starting point, and we have to now take concrete steps over cautiously planning to expand into other global markets, and only then we can really diversify in that direction.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Hira. And Omair, what's your expansion plans over the next 2 to 3 years? Where would you guys be going? What do you see as the potential markets to grow over the next decade?
All right. So correctly said, the United States has been a major contributor towards our revenue and a lot of other companies. And I would highlight a couple of reasons to that. United States as a nation, as a market, they're more acceptable towards the technology. They have more acceptance towards the change, towards what we propose to them. That's one of the reasons that it's a low-hanging fruit for all of us, and that their appetite doesn't stop. I mean, they keep on evolving, they keep on adapting. The decision making is really quick as compared to other regions where we go and where we propose our solution or services. I mean, there are no red tapeisms. They do accept that, okay, we are coming from a developing nation, so it's okay to give them opportunity. Now, if you ask about our plan, then definitely our plan is to penetrate more in that region in the United States. The second most potential region is the Middle East. Countries like Egypt, Sudan, Asif Bhai would acknowledge this as well, that they have really good potential. They have deep pockets. I mean, for any business like us, we really need to know that do they even have budget? Do we need to spend our time, spend our efforts to propose them these IT services and solutions? So they do have, budgets. They do have. What do they lack really is maybe a trust factor coming from us, coming from Pakistan, proposing these solutions. They do have trust issues on certain areas, which brings us to the initial point that somebody has to make those SOPs and policies and safeguard the companies like us, and then we can take those to these countries and cater to their needs. So we definitely plan to tap on these markets as well, Middle East especially, not just Middle East but Africa. But there's no doubt in saying that the United States will be a major contributor, provided our relation with them keeps on going well, which I believe it will. And in terms of services, yes, there's a huge array of services which we would like to adapt. Cybersecurity is one of that. DevOps, definitely. Not in such a large scale, but yes, we'll have to start from somewhere because it's again in high demand, and then acceptability and the need is there. And the companies are actually accepting the need as well. So that's what our plan is for the next 2 years in terms of the market and the services.
Great, thank you, man. Asif bhai, let me make the question a bit interesting for you. So why, other than US, what would be your number 1, 2, and 3 markets other than US? And what are your thoughts about markets that we usually don't usually think of? Let's say start with Central Asia, East Asia, and Australia and New Zealand, for that matter. What are your views over expanding over there and in these markets? And what do you feel if there's an opportunity for companies like yourselves and other Pakistani IT companies to follow you over these markets?
I think, as you rightly said, like, of course, North American market is the largest market, and they believe in outsourcing, and they have been doing this forever, right? So they are more mature, and they know what can be outsourced and what can't be outsourced. And similarly, following, like, the second biggest is Europe, for sure, right? That we all know from the numbers perspective. If America is 40-65%, Europe is about 15-20%, right? So 80% comes from these two markets. So definitely there is no doubt, if you, whatever number we want to aspire, 10, 5, 20, whatever, it has to, US, North America and Europe needs to keep growing, or at least the percentage needs to maintain, right, roughly, even if it doesn't grow. But if you maintain the percentage as you are growing, I think that is also a big ask. So, but you asked the question that the other markets, I think other markets are very important for Pakistan. And there are two reasons why I would say, like GCC countries, say, for example, Saudi being the largest market, right, in the region, and that GCC, there is no doubt about it. It's a common consensus that Saudi is the largest in the region, and then it follows by UAE and other markets, right? So over there, we have an edge, right? We are Pakistan. In those countries, you can project it better. You can send people easier. They can consider, like, if you're saying that I'm like top 5 companies of Pakistan, in these countries, it matters. In US, you can say this pitch, nobody will listen because you're very small, because the ecosystem is such that even $100 million company is very small in that ecosystem, right? So these markets really need to be really important. And it's just APAC region. Yes, APAC regions like Singapore and other markets are really, and Australia, these markets are also good for the countries. I think Africa has been ignored by, like, if you see the percentage of African continent in our export, it is pretty low. Even I would say Saudi is pretty low, you know. So we really, these are the low-hanging fruits that we all need to be branding and focusing around that, because as we all know, while we are going to maintain North America and Europe share, it's the low-hanging fruits are there for us, right, to explore while we're working on the big markets, right? So I think GCC countries is easy to go. So I think that's everybody's in UAE, I believe, already. So I think that they should explore, and UAE can be used as a hub for other countries. You know, once you are stationed there in UAE, then I think it's very easy to maneuver, very easy to set up, very easy to go. I think people can start thinking about those as well. Like, and I'm pretty positive it will be a great shift.
That's great. Thank you, Asif. Yep, absolutely. I agree. Imran, now we've been talking about the cloud development services that we can surely export from Pakistan, and that's a no-brainer for anybody within tech right now. There's a huge opportunity, and we should be tapping onto it. Now, let me turn around the question a bit, and what I also see there's a potential of Pakistan to becoming a cloud services and cloud SaaS and PaaS and IaaS services hub. And what I take my inspirations from is usually when Sohail Qadir went to Omantel in 3 to 4 years time, he turned around Oman as the next bandwidth center of the region. A very shrewd policy, very shrewd pricing mechanism, tax breaks. Omantel did all that. Now, if you look at Pakistan, where Pakistan is at. Anywhere on top of Pakistan, from the north of Pakistan right up to the north of Russian northern border, and on northeast up to Hunan province, in China, and northwest up to Romania, there is no major cloud node. Now, 6 or 8 cables connect Pakistan with undersea cables, and we have 8 cables all across Pakistan, out of which 5 are running DWDM. And then there's 1 cable connecting Pakistan to China. And on that cable, I've seen the performance, the network delay between the ping delay between Karachi and Shanghai is somewhere around 92 milliseconds, which otherwise is more than 300 milliseconds. Now, if we provide such a huge opportunity for connecting, let's say, Kenya to Shanghai or Kenya to Moscow, or South Africa to Kazakhstan, what do you think we should need to do to make this, to make Pakistan as the next cloud node hub? What are the policies? What are the strategies that Pakistan government, us at PSEB or our colleagues at STZA would be taking to ensure that this happens?
Thank you for a wonderful question, Osman. 3-4 things are very clear. You're absolutely right. And there's another cable coming in now called the Peace Cable, which is Pakistan, East Africa connecting Europe, which is going to bring 64 terabits of bandwidth to Pakistan. And Cybernet is a member of that consortium as well. So that will also increase the bandwidth capacity and drop down the dollar value per MB further. So that's fantastic. But let's first address your first question, which is, what is the opportunity? The opportunity is massive. And myself and along with a couple of other companies are completely capitalizing on it. We are right now looking at land all across the country to create large-scale purpose-built cloud data centers so that we can serve the growing demand that we are already getting from regional countries for cloud IaaS and SaaS hosting. So currently, RapidCompute is the only GDPR certified cloud in the country, and that we've had to do because we've had tons of European and other countries that follow the same security pattern using our cloud to offer services in the region because of low latency. So these are countries that want to serve Dubai and other adjacent areas, and they find that they are able to do so better out of Pakistan. So that's one. So yes, the bridge. So we are capitalizing on it. We are looking at land to build purpose-built facilities all across the country so that we can serve that need. Now for the next part of your question, what needs to be done from a policy and a framework point of view? See, there's one undeniable fact that cloud computing needs infrastructure. Infrastructure costs dollars. The rupee is taking a beating like it never has. It's at 175.6, I think, today or something like that. So the input cost, when you compare it to the input cost for countries like the US and other countries, the input cost is about 35 to 40% lower from the offset because they have manufacturing in country or they have export from countries that are adjacent to them. So they're about 35 to 40% cheaper on the outset. How can we combat that? Now, we've been lobbying for this for quite a while. If you ever need to prop up an industry, you need to see what kind of financial benefits you can give that are not in their control, that are not, let's say, manipulative or monopolistic. First of all, in order to encourage this to be a cloud epicenter, you need to really figure out how to give tax incentives and cost incentives to companies like Rapid, who are importing millions of dollars of hardware every year in order to replenish their IaaS and PaaS and SaaS stack. That needs to be looked at by the government because that is a means to the end. It is going to be impossible for someone like me or Asif bhai to set up hubs or centers of excellence for things that cost upward to $4-5 million every year and yet have to pay 30-35% tax on top of it on stuff that we bring in. So we need to understand how to cut down duties, how to cut down taxes, how to create a means to an end to achieve that hub. Secondly, we need to have a very focused view on the kind of HR we need to produce. And that is also something we've been lobbying at. That's how China did it. That's how Scandinavian countries have did it. Scandinavian countries ka to masla alag hai, population bahut choti hai. So they have to focus very hard on where they want to develop. We need to focus on cloud centers of excellence for education. We need to focus on cloud policies for import of equipment. We need to focus on land grants for creating cloud data centers. Ye main koi anokhi baat nahi kar raha. You look at the lands where Amazon builds, where Google builds, when Toronto and Ontario bid for the Amazon center just in Trudeau's time, land subsidies were given, 10-20-year tax holidays were given. These are clever fiscal policies that strongly develop an ecosystem. If the government is able to do that after consultation with people like us, Pakistan can definitely set up hubs in the region. all the countries, like you said, all the way to the Russian border, they don't have any public cloud provider. Central Asian chhod dein, I went to Turkey, they didn't have a public cloud provider. I went to a lot of countries in Eastern Europe, like, they didn't have a public cloud provider. They were still using other cloud providers across the border or had not even started migration to the cloud. This is an absolutely open market, which you can, among other things, you can completely price out. You can price them out if you want to do hosting in Pakistan. You can price them out if you want to set up a data center in their country. This is an amazing opportunity for countries like us that have actually, thankfully, not gone on the Amazon, Google, Azure bandwagon and have actually managed to develop an indigenous platform. Because let me be very clear, India, being the giant that it is in IT, doesn't have an indigenous cloud platform. That is because the big players moved in 9 years ago and people just said, ab to zarurat hi nahi na, ab to aa gaya, ab istemal kar lete. We, fortunately, me and others like us, like Asif bhai and all, we built our own technology stacks because we wanted to provide a service and fill a vacuum. And that has put us in the best possible advantage today in the post-COVID era. So I think government policies on subsidies, government policies on land, HR development, and projection in the region. The region is empty. The region is ripe for the taking. I won't mention where all I'm working right now because I want to wait till things actually materialize. But everybody is so receptive. But not everything can be done by the private company itself because private sector companies want to work on profitability and returns. There are some things that the government will have to do. They will have to do trade expo. They will have to do IT expo. They will have to do hand holding, knowledge sharing, things like that. I think if that is done, I'm not exaggerating, by 2024, which is just 3 years down the line, Pakistan could be the de facto Middle Eastern / South Asian cloud hub for a lot of emerging economies based on our cost structure and the quality of services that we provide.
True, and I see as AI making more and more foray into areas like governance, like corporate sector itself. I see the importance of compute power. Having the compute power for a country is critical, and the compute power that country itself and that country's citizens and companies can control. So that's going to be very critical. But let's quickly move on because we are heading to the last 20 minutes of our conversation. Let's quickly move on to the impediments, and let's not waste more than five to 6 minutes on it. Hira, starting with you, the impediments of what all the good things that we looking to do, the impediments and the problem areas that you wish to highlight.
I think over the session, we have already talked about some of them. On a broader level, there are 4 to 5 main bottlenecks that we have to work together to solve. The first, Imran has talked about it, lack of skilled resources. And we can't emphasize it enough that out of the 25,000 graduates that come out of the universities, only 10% are ready for the industry. So the industry readiness and the lack of skilled resources is something that has been a big challenge. And I know that we are now taking initiatives to improve on that. But unless we see that improvement, we can't really reach the potential. The second is the ease of doing business and cost of doing business. And it's linked directly with the continuation and consistency of the policies. So when we talk about regulations, it's not just about, coming up with a good policy, but it's also about how that policy will sustain over the years. The third is the access to the global market. Again, we have talked about it, diversification. We talked about, adding Middle East, South Asia, and Africa, Australia, New Zealand to the markets as well. The fourth is the, infrastructure in terms of internet penetration. Most of the potential that we see today is because of the bigger, cities, Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad being the business hubs. But we have, other cities as well. And just, Osman, we were talking about it yesterday as well. Just as when we were visiting Skardu last month, we saw that after COVID-19, how IT industry and a career in IT industry became a choice for people. And we saw how 37 companies came out of nowhere. But even though that those 37 companies are currently operating, they struggled with basic facilities of internet to really capture the potential. So infrastructure and internet penetration, quality of service is one big area. And last but not the least is the country perception through the political changes. We have to work for the improving that side in terms of brand Pakistan initiatives. Only then we can really achieve the dream that we want to have.
Thanks, Hira. Omair, we're dwellers of Karachi, and you've been facing these ease of doing business and cost of doing business issues for a while. It's a constant here. And on top, what Hira mentioned in terms of skills, in terms of access to the global market and access to capital itself. What do you think on the supply side? We take the access to market, and on the demand side, on the supply side, ease of doing business, infrastructure, skilled labor, and access to capital. What do you think? What would be your order of placing them in importance, and what are you going to do about it over the next couple of years? What are your plans in let's say at least 2 or 3 of them?
So we faced this couple of years ago, that the supply from the supply side, that I know the educational institutes can do as much as they can do in their own capacity. They are churning out the graduates those who have good theory, but obviously somebody has to take charge and polish them. Somebody who has the industry experience and the implementation experience, and somebody who can make them ready for the job. So we already have this program. It's our in-house initiative where we take the fresh graduates and train them, irrespective if they would be good for us or not. We do train them. We do provide them the platform where they could learn how to implement those theoretical subjects which they have studied, and how to polish their skills. Now, in order to scale that up, what we do need is infrastructure for sure. We are ready to invest from our own side in terms of the time and skills, whatever we can do as a private sector. Like Imran said, that as a private company, we do have our own challenges. We have to meet the bottom line, and we have to keep the boat rolling. So we are ready to contribute as much as we can. We do need infrastructure for that. Now, we started developing a platform just this year. It's going to be a hub for all those fresh graduates, or the skill set that is available from the supply side. So it will give them an opportunity to learn, to make some money out of it, and obviously be ready for the bigger challenges that they have to face ahead. In order to accomplish that, again, we would need the support from government, from the infrastructure side. Now, the second biggest thing that is lacking for us Pakistani nation, or for the entrepreneurs or for the startups, is the right channel to bring in the forex. You know that we are lacking behind in bringing the big names in terms of the payment merchants, where we can process the payments, make it easy for the startups or the smaller companies who can contribute in this ID exports. I'm talking about this, on the very grassroots level. People are generating money, people are doing business through other channels, and they're just waiting for the right channel to be there to, increase their exports. Bring it to the right channel. That's the most important thing. I mean, there must be 20 other companies working on a very massive scale, but they're not just following the protocols, they're just not following the right channel. So I mean, we can take them on board and hike up the ID exports to the level that we do need. Like the stage is all set for them. All they need is the right channel to bring in the money to Pakistan, and register it as an IT export, which we all are striving to increase. So yeah, infrastructure and payment gateways. I know that there are a lot of companies and banks who are already working on the payment gateways, but I'm talking about the big names who are, the offshore companies do trust. Like if I'll go and I'll say that, okay, we do support PayPal and Bank of America merchants. So obviously, an American company wouldn't think twice before placing the order. But if I'll say that, okay, I'm coming from Park Pay and XYZ platform, and that's a payment merchant that we provide, so they will think twice about it. So that's an area that we really have to catch up, and I believe you guys are already working on that. We just need to pace up on that.
Thank you. Asif bhai, let me again make the question difficult for you. Let's say you are given the reins of an assignment to redraw the taxation structure for IT sector as a strategic sector, and also to redraft some of the banking policies and the forex policies. What would be your take on it? What, if from a fresh mind, without any bureaucratic baggage, how do you think you would be able to turn it around? And mind you, there's a very important function that these organizations do in collecting taxes and keeping the the wheels of the economy rolling. So we can't just say we just put a 0% on it. But what is the balance that you will strike? Because their job is a real hard job, and we must appreciate how they are doing it. Asif, over to you.
No, I think, of course, I think central bank and FBR and all these, they do a lot of work, and they are all focused on facilitating. I think you, Usman, have seen the recent development. I think it is a very good shift from where they were before and where they are today. So very receptive in listening the ideas to the industry, and very receptive in at least making a good attempt to fix whatever they can. So from a banking and forex perspective, as you said, I think we just need to focus on one thing, which, because as Pasha and the freelancer and other, all of them, PSEB, they all know what are the challenges that people face, right? From receiving the forex to sending the forex to any regulations. I think these are the baby steps that this could be done with the core focus with the industry collaboration. Once these things are done and with ease of money flowing in and out, I think it will make a lot of difference, right? It will make a lot of difference because it gives the confidence to people. Right now, say for example, if you are doing export and you say that, okay, I need some money for my growth, but after 2 years or 1 year, so let me park it here wherever it is, because if I send money to Pakistan, I will have a difficulty in getting back. Although I have a very good business case, that my exports will grow and so on and so forth, right? So, and timing is of essence in our business. It's all about, if the policy making needs to be such that decision needs to be made quickly. So if, say for example, if I want to acquire something abroad, right, to generate export, I have a business plan and I need to send X million, right? Because say for example, if I do that, how quickly I can do it. I need to have that confidence, and what kind of a process and a framework that I need to follow so it won't be stopped. I should have an utter confidence that if I go and follow this process and I have this business plan, as an industry, of course, I have some business plan, and it will not be stopped anywhere, and it will not take a lot of time in moving the files from one place to other. I think it will make a lot of difference. You can read the neighboring country's Central Board of Revenue rules. You got companies are allowed up to take $1 billion, right? Or there is some other, or with the paid up a book value or something like that as well. So I think these things needs to be fixed. I do understand we have foreign currency issue, and it's saying is easy, doing is very difficult, but whoever is managing it is a difficulty. But if we really need to grow this sector, then investment will be needed, right? Investment will be needed, and will be needed abroad, because as you said, if you want to open up the markets, right, whether it's North America, whether it's UAE, you need investment to hire people over there, and then you grow the business. If you believe that you sit in Pakistan and you will grow the exports, you will not be able to. You will be able to grow at a certain extent, but it won't be hyper growth. Then you won't be able to think like, I will do $10 million export in 2 years. It is not possible. Yeah, you can say Zoom and Teams world work, but it doesn't work that way that you can scale hyper growth. Yeah, you can still growth like 100 people you can sell from here, but if you really need to aim bigger, then you need investment. So I think these things it's not a fresh mind. We have given so many inputs. So I think considering the current country challenge, we need to find a balance in between, right? But whatever balance we find, it needs to be crystal and clear. Like if we decide we can't send more than X for whatever reason, but to send X, this is the clear-cut process. If you follow that, then in 24 hours you get an approval and your transactions will be done. That needs to be absolutely clear. It should not be left at the helm of one individual, and that individual and the behavior varies from individual to individual as well. And we all know that it might happen in certain cases, right? So we really need to think like that, right? If we can convince these institutions to think like that, I think people will have a confidence. Okay, whatever it is, you set the rule, but then it is not dependent on people, it's dependent on the process, and the process is such that if you follow it, it is 24 hours done, or whatever the reasonable time. I'm just making it up, but that's what my 2 cents are.
Thank you. Thank you. Imran, over to you. What we have seen, your group has been investing a lot in branding, and when they started back in 1990s with Cybernet, they didn't go for the word ISP. They went for Cybernet rather. And the conglomerate that you are part of, they are good in branding. What I have seen over the past few years in the tech industry, that maturity that we are lacking as an industry, is that lack of understanding of the power of brand, and how important it is, and the power of marketing. For instance, I've seen marketing material, and we've been guilty of that at PSEB. So I'll raise my hand first. So the power of collateral, the power of content, the power of publication, we don't put any value to it. Actually, we just we think of it as a side step situation where we say, okay, project mil raha hai, अच्छा वो word की file बनाओ, उसको PDF में convert करो, customer को भेज दो. I mean, why don't we as an industry think about setting up कि महीने का 10 लाख एक साइड पे रखना है और कंटेंट बनवाना है और कोलेटरल बनवाना है और presentations बनवानी है? Why don't we do that? And then what is the right word for me to say to the industry for खुदा के वास्ते do it?
I love the fact that this is the first non-technical question we're having here. You cannot undersell the importance of marketing. And आपने Cybernet की बिल्कुल बात शुरू की. Since the early 90s, mid 90s, we used to do these crazy things when we had scratch card. Noori के concert भी कराते थे, 10,000 चीजें कराते थे. Because देखें, before anybody can experience your product or your service, people experience your personality. People experience your brand or the persona or the उसे कहते हैं बड़ा अच्छा लफ्ज़ है, the aspirational value of it. That's what people experience before they can experience a product or a service. Okay, you look at all the big brands abroad. Apple की जिसके पास कोई चीज एक भी चीज Apple की यूज नहीं करती होगी, उसके दिल में ये यकीन जरूर होगा कि Apple के प्रोडक्ट की क्वालिटी बेस्ट है, उसने चाहे इस्तेमाल किया ना हो. That is the value of marketing, and I am grateful to be in an organization that since 1994 has firmly believed that marketing is the key to create differentiation. Because there are often times when you are running on fine margins in terms of product differentiation in actuality. So you create perceptional differentiation. Okay? We did that in Cybernet. We did that when we did GPON for Cybernet. We did that massively with Stormfiber. Stormfiber from the first day was this youthful, energetic, gamer-friendly brand. We did that successfully. So when Rapid was also there, and Rapid is the most tech product that Cybernet has actually. It's a product in tech mix. From day one in 2010, 2011, we realized that in order to create a need for experience, we needed to create a perception. इसलिए पहले दिन से everything from the brand guide, we never did anything in-house. We left it to the specialists कि यार आप बताएं. Everything from the brand guide to the logo to the merchandises that we made. Even this year's 10-year rebranding, आपके पास भी सामान आया था. You know, it was a big hoopla. We made a big fuss of the fact that 10 साल के बाद we changed our name, we changed our branding, because often that is the message that gets to people, right? And अब बिल्कुल ठीक बोल रहे हैं, पाकिस्तान में आज भी ये एक आफ्टर थॉट है. कोई गवर्नमेंट टेंडर अप्लाई होता है, कहता है जी पोर्टफोलियो दे दें. ओए पहली बार पोर्टफोलियो बनता है, बैठ के जल्दी जल्दी बनता है. कोई इन हाउस बंदा आ जाता है, किसी का आउटसोर्स हो जाता है. PSEB ने मांग लिया जी पोर्टफोलियो शॉर्टलिस्ट करने के लिए. अभी बैठ के बनाओ. You know, everybody's doing it at the last minute and they don't realize that quality sees, it shows through. But as Asif would tell you, Salsoft guys would tell you, when you are presenting to a global audience or presenting to an educated local audience, this is the thing that they look for. They take these as cues to how much pride you take in your work. आपकी documentation कैसी होती है, आपका proposal कैसे आता है, अंग्रेजी कैसी है, उस पे colors कैसे हैं, logo कैसा है, print quality कैसी है, then how are you dressed, brand work आपका क्या है, कपड़े पे मैंने lapel पहना हुआ है, something. It all works to create, this is classic college education, this all works to create a perception. इसलिए पहले दिन से हमने सारी चीजें की. अभी जब हम टर्की गए और बाकी जगह गए, we make documentaries every year, we make new TV adverts every year. अभी हमने अपनी 10-year anniversary की बहुत बड़ी documentary बनाई. We take our collateral whenever we go to these NICs or the startups or the colleges. We make it a big deal to show who we are, and that's very important. क्योंकि जब आप किसी CIO के डेस्क पे जाते हैं ना, आपको बाकी ब्रांड्स का भी नजर आता है कि बहुत अच्छी एक पोर्टफोलियो रखी हुई है, उसमें बहुत अच्छी अंग्रेजी में बहुत क्लियरली आर्टिकुलेट किया हुआ है कि उनकी सर्विस ऑफरिंग क्या है या उनके प्रोडक्ट्स क्या हैं और व्हाट काइंड ऑफ प्रॉब्लम दे आर सॉल्विंग. हमने 2 साल पहले जिंदगी में पहली बार केस स्टडीज बनाना शुरू की, बिकॉज वी स्टार्टेड सीइंग इंटरनेशनली पीपल आर एबल टू कन्वे मैसेजेस थ्रू केस स्टडीज कि यार ये प्रॉब्लम थी, हमने ये प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व की. मर्चेंडाइजिंग का कल्चर नहीं था पाकिस्तान में आज से 4-5 साल पहले. कोई मग नहीं बनाता था, कोई टी शर्ट नहीं बनाता था, लेकिन अब कंपनियां करती हैं, बिकॉज दिस क्रिएट्स अ वेरी होलिस्टिक ब्रांड पर्सोना. हमें तो इसका बहुत फायदा हुआ है. हमने तो पिछले 3-4 साल में किया है. A lot of people who are not my customers, who are not my prospects, they have seen how active we are on social media. लोग मुझे अक्सर मिलते हैं तो कहते हैं आपको LinkedIn पे देखा, Facebook पे देखा, you know, Twitter पे देखा. These things are very important today because आजकल लोगों के पास टाइम नहीं है. 5 मिनट होते हैं मोबाइल पे स्पेंड करने के लिए. मोबाइल पे जो नजर आ गया, that is their reality. So if they see your brand on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, they see good news about you, they see your interviews, they see, you know, stuff, or if you're wearing your brand or anything, it's very important. लेकिन जो ये चीज है ना, जो ये छपी हुई चीज होती है जो जाती है लोगों के पास, that is your respect and that is what they see, the first thing they see, and that is how they gauge how serious you are about the brand, especially service sector में. प्रोडक्ट में तो बहुत आसान है, टोस्टर है, टीवी है, रेडियो है, आपने इस्तेमाल कर लिया, परसीव कर लिया. सर्विस सेक्टर में दिस वैल्यू of how seriously you take the business and how serious you are about the service you're giving, that is beyond anything. And you've seen the kind of work System Limited does. You've seen the kind of work, Shahzad Shahid and other people do. When they present, when they give something, their brand speaks for who they are and also for what they charge, because then you end up having the ability to make more money because you have a greater perceived value. And मैं आपके बिल्कुल पहले टॉपिक पे जल्दी जाता हूँ. एक्सपोर्ट करना है, एक्सपोर्ट 5-6 बिलियन पे लेके जानी है, तो जो लिथुआनिया में बैठा हुआ है या जो पोलैंड में बैठा हुआ है, उसको नहीं पता सिस्टम लिमिटेड कौन है, उसको नहीं पता रैपिड कौन है. वो वेबसाइट पे जाएगा, वो वेबसाइट देखेगा कितनी अच्छी है, वो आपके सोशल मीडिया पे जाएगा, वो आपका कोलैटरल जो आप उसे DHL करेंगे उसको पढ़ेगा. दैट इज हाउ इंटरनेशनल एक्सपोर्ट्स वर्क ऑल ओवर. मेरे पास भी थद्दा पड़ा हुआ है डेस्क पे ऑफ पार्टनर्स who send me collateral to read for becoming cloud partners, and that is my first window into their company, that and their website. And आज भी पाकिस्तान में बड़ी बड़ी कंपनियों की इतनी गंदी वेबसाइटें हैं कि अगर आप कभी जाएं तो आपको रियलाइज होगा कि शायद किसी ने यहाँ देखा ही नहीं है, because they are not gearing up for the digital age. They are still used to convention B2B interactions. And आजकल B2B interaction नहीं होती. मेरी पिछली 10 बड़ी डीलें जो हैं वो Zoom पे हुई हैं, मैं आज तक कस्टमर से मिला भी नहीं. So yeah, to cap it off, extremely important. I do it a lot. Other big companies do as well. And खास तौर पे एक्सपोर्ट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से तो अगर आप मार्केटिंग नहीं कर रहे, आप प्रोजेक्शन नहीं कर रहे, तो आज करना शुरू कर दे. कोई बात नहीं, महीने के 5-6 लाख रुपए किसी एजेंसी को चले जाएंगे, उनका भी भला हो जाएगा. And they are professionals. They will do work for you and you will see immediate results.
True, and I hope we are over time. I hope that is okay because this is an important discussion. I would like to take input of Omair and Hira and Asif bhai on it very quickly. Omair, यार लोगों को कैसे समझाएं कि आपको अच्छा प्रोजेक्ट मिल गया है, जबरदस्त, we are all happy for you, लेकिन वो 65 लाख की SUV अभी एक साल और वेट कर सकती है, थोड़े से पैसे और मार्केटिंग में डाल दें तो मतलब कुछ बेहतर हो जाएगा. How do we tell this message? Because look, government can do as much, right? We can do country branding and we can do all that, but your own branding, the company's own branding is in the hands of the industry. How do we tell this message to all our friends in the industry? How do we do that?
It's a build-up process. I mean, it cannot happen overnight because ये build-up हो गई खराब हुआ है, and we all are contributors towards that. Obviously, we'll have to start picking up with those who are major contributors, bring them on table for the first time, I guess. We have tried, honestly, I have, on my personal capacity, I've tried this a lot of times, but I've failed because honestly, वो balloon इतना बड़ा हो चुका है कि one person cannot handle it. But somebody has to take initiative. If we say that we are pioneers or we're the industry leaders, then we have to take the first step. So maybe we'll have to step down a bit. Maybe we'll have to take the initiative of taking the hard pill. So we're ready for that. But again, the business is there as well. We have to take care of that. So it's going to take some time, baby steps. Bringing them on the table is the first thing we do. And for that, we need a flag in our hand, an endorsement from your side, maybe from the government side, or maybe make a consortium. Don't wait for the government to take the step, or just make a consortium from our end, a strong consortium which they will listen to. I mean, they're all just like me. They're all enthusiasts. They're all young blood. They all want to work for the better good of themselves. So we can always teach them that it will come. It will take some time. Just give something to the industry first. Wait for a while. 5-6 साल रुक जाओगे कोई गलत नहीं हो जाएगा to drive a better car, to enjoy that better life. So somebody have to give them assurance as well. कि मिलेगा, ऐसा नहीं है कि if you won't take it in next 2 to 3 months, it will get out of your hands. And that's where I'll take the point back to the discussion previously, कि we are trying to train them. We are trying to bring the fresh blood out of जिनको इस industry का भी पता नहीं है, and they're just making the perception दूसरे लोगों को देख के. So we are trying to teach them the right way of achieving the better life, the better part of it. But again, the practical is in front of them. So unless कि वहाँ पे we'll have to take a step back. जो अभी भी लोग train हो रहे हैं, जो इस industry में आ रहे हैं, they'll keep deteriorating. वो जो एक wave चली हुई है उसमें आते जाएंगे वो लोग. So we have to take a step back as a industry leader, and we really need your help in that as well, to bring them on the table, to talk to them, to align some SOPs कि यार सब एक industry का part हो तो एक ही parameter पे चलते हैं, rather than just pushing ourselves to the extent जहाँ पे हम बिल्कुल edge पे खड़े हुए हैं, and then we can fall off one after another, and जिस तरह एक दूसरे को देख के follow करते हुए एक अच्छी चीज की तरफ जा रहे हैं, we could lead to a deteriorating side of it as well.
Thank you. We are trying our best. We created the industry brand for Pakistan, Tech Destination Pakistan. We are now treating that as a umbrella marketing brand for the country, and we'll be all branding Pakistan accordingly. So yeah, you guys can go to techdestination.com. There is a new website coming on top. This is a portal for the while. But we've tried to do industry reports, industry videos, content about taxation, all of that sort of stuff. And the industry, overall the industry yearly annual report is also there. So we're trying to do that, and we're trying to send this message across to all the others that, look, this has to be top notch, because this is like, you're representing the country. And this is really, really important that our image as a country goes out as a top-notch competitor country. We don't want to bring us and our colleagues down. Asif bhai, yours is a public limited company, so you can give us a few pointers, and you can give us some ideas about how much branding and marketing itself, events, all of that what is the portion of that in your overall expense on your P&L side? How much percentage does that constitute? And what should a small company do? How much should a small company be putting forward to, to cover all these elements?
I think first of all, I would say it is definitely very, very critical and important, because if we are not on the face, it will be impossible for branding, and not like just marketing. You have to use the channels appropriately, right? Where you need to market, you need to build the relationship with principals, foreign countries, how you want to do it. And as you rightly said, that having the I'm not proponent of big exhibitions and the teams. What I always tell, if you really need to get the results, then it has to be very focused group of people who are really sold on Pakistan, but they don't believe in it. They need to meet with people to make their decisions and firm up. So once we line up those group of people, then you will see the impact will be huge. It requires a lot of time. I do understand that, and a lot of hard work in bringing those people to the table, but that is absolutely essential. With just going into the meetings and the booths, I would be honestly saying we have wasted tons of money already as a company. And of course, I'm sure you guys have wasted a lot of money as well, but the results, ROI won't be there. So, for ROI, better ROI is marketing and branding. Percentage is relative, because for a smaller company, for me, the small percentage is a good number as well because of our revenue size. But typically, I think I would say any company needs to spend about at least 5 to 10% in their sales and marketing efforts, right? So minimum, that's I would say, but it depends. Like percentage term is very relative. For the smaller company, if you're $1 million company, then you might get only $50,000, and it's very hard to do sales and marketing in that. So as I'm saying, it's very difficult in the different scale. The percentage is not the right parameter, but I would say it is really important to present yourself wherever you go, and be confident about it, about your own brand, about your country, and about the strengths that what we offer. And that's what I think we request from PSEB and others as well, right? That they need to be helping the companies and the industry, as a Pakistan, as a country, that we should have something which every small company or medium or large company can leverage and reuse. Okay, this is what IDG is saying, this is what McKinsey is saying, this is what Gartner is saying about Pakistan, not systems or Pasha or IT ministry. We can, this kind of exercise in the videos and the testimonies, and whoever the investors coming in these days now, the VCs are coming in, and what they are saying about us. It's more about what they are saying about us, and it's more about what our clients are saying about us. It's not about what we say about us as systems, what our clients say about Pakistan and the delivery centers. Once we get those kind of testimonies, and once we get those kind of a branding and marketing and put those things really, and then everybody can use it, right? Because then it's a global asset, like we call in retail space, digital asset management, right? So once you have all those assets available, then you can put that into your presentation, and one slide could be about Pakistan as a country, why Pakistan, and then one slide could be why systems, or why XYZ company. So I think that combination, that gives a confidence to the buyer of our services. Yes, it makes sense, right? So that's what I would like to say.
Osman, you're on mute. Osman, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry, there we go. I'll round off with Hira, just last 2 to 3 minutes, but we are over time. Hira, what should Pasha be doing with PSEB to actually shock the industry into making this realization that, look, 5 to 10%, as Asif Bhai has given us the direction, 5 to 10% needs to, Baba, go into your kharcha every month, and that's not going to be an exercise कि जब customer आएगा तो सोचेंगे तो देखेंगे तो कर लेंगे. That how do we shock the industry into realizing that?
You see, Osman, while all of the people were talking, I think there are 2 dimensions where we have to see this problem. One is Imran was very passionate about coming up with documentaries, but I feel like that's a very advanced stage. We have to lay down all the stages of how companies really start doing their marketing activities. And the first stage is just having their good website. And we, and I think to all the company representatives and CXOs who are listening to the session right now, I think the first stage, if you are an IT company, then your website needs to be really representative of your work. It should have the testimonials, time testimonials. It should really speak about the work. And we know that majority of the companies are doing great work, but their websites are not really there. The second stage is having the standard marketing collateral, which can include, but not limited to, portfolios, but also digital media presence, LinkedIn pages of the company, social media pages of the company, but more importantly, having all the documented, documentation related to the marketing and portfolio of the company. So that's the second stage. The third stage is where the in-person interactions come in. And that's where companies need to learn how to pitch themselves. And although I agree with Asif Peer about a question on ROI, but the reason why ROI on the international events and all and delegations, but the reason why they are important is that they give that exposure that is needed to refine that pitch. So I think that pitch needs to be there of when if you have 5 minutes to tell about your product and company, how will you make maximum usage of that 5 minutes? And that will only be possible if more and more exposure is there and people are more exposed to the situations of doing it over and over and again. And lastly, fourth stage for any company is the case studies, documentaries, success stories, and all that. And that is, the last final stage in reports. But speaking as a devil's advocate now, and now I'll come to, Pasha's and PSEB growth, that why is it not happening? The reason why it's not happening is because of two primary reasons. One is this, general evolution of the company. When a company, a person sets up a company, in the first year, they are thinking about just managing their cash flows. And they are just thinking about, streamlining their internal processes. It's only when a company reaches, team size of 25, 50 people, they start thinking about basic project management activities. And it's only after it reaches 100 people, they start really thinking about marketing. So I think it's a general evolution as well for companies that they need some time to set up their own internal house before they start branding themselves. And the second reason I feel is because less businessmen are involved in the IT sector. And I think that's where we can also work on. We could see that in India, Tata and other businessmen, when people who really understood sales and marketing, they got involved in the IT industry, then they used their traditional knowledge for branding of IT industry as well. In case
Excellent.
of IT industry, people are more concerned about the work that they are doing. They're passionate about the technology that they're building. So they couldn't care less about branding. And I think that's where at Pasha and PSEB, we can create more awareness. We can create more, first time to do guides and all that and activities to promote it.
Thank you, Hira. Excellent time with all you gentlemen, and Hira had a brilliant time. And we would like to thank Kawal Masroor and his team, the CXO Global team. You guys have done a wonderful job. Really grateful, and the kind of branding and activities that you guys are doing on behalf of Pakistan and the industry, you should be saluted, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for a great debate, and we'll see you.